So here we
I
go.
love your backdrop.
Thank you. I just set this up yesterday. Was it yesterday or the day before? Because now I don't have kids at home and I have so much free time to redecorate.
That's awesome.
Where are you?
I am in my studio, which is a new development, but I'm pretty excited about it. I have a little backdrop too back there. Didn't set it up, but yeah.
Are you recording?
Yes. No, I don't have a recording studio set up, just music. I'm teaching voice lessons and yoga and some other things in here. Cool. Yeah. It's really exciting. Yeah. I have so many like personal life questions for you, but I can save that for when we're not doing podcasts. I'll call you a different time and ask you. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, and if it comes up, feel free. But so your life, I imagine, has changed quite a bit since the coronavirus.
So much.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that too. Just in general, so much since I last saw you.
I've seen you. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, that too.
Yes. But yeah, also with Corona, that's been interesting. But
because you were also for posting all these great pictures of you doing live stuff. It was so great.
I was performing every weekend.
Yeah.
Right. So all that got shut down, and I'm having my first performance on Friday again, but I think that's a rarity. I'm not sure that I'll be like really in the swing of it again until next year. So yeah, that's a shift, but actually a welcome one. I'm very fortunate to not be too negatively impacted by the situation. I've been wanting, so my business that I've been wanting to start and kind of starting is called Inner Space Creative Studio. And I've just been not putting it off, but there's been other things that have been the priority instead of working on that. So with coronavirus, it's given me some time to say, okay, I'm not performing. I can kind of refocus my energy on this other element that I've been wanting to develop anyway. So that's been actually pretty nice.
So is that what you were saying? It's the voice lessons and the yoga classes and stuff like
right. That? Yeah. So it's kind of intuitive arts, voice lessons, but kind of more like I'll teach a traditional voice lesson, but I'm a little more interested in kind of an energetic voice lesson or like an emotional expression. You know, a lot of people don't have encouraging outlets to express all sorts of things, or maybe they're not comfortable with it. And so, you know, through song and music and through someone else's lyrics, you can get a lot of feelings out. You know, you can sing a really angry song if you want to, or just just express things that maybe normally you wouldn't give yourself the full freedom to express. So I'm interested in that. And then also combining that with movement. So I did get certified for yoga instruction, but I've been teaching some traditional hatha classes, but I'm a little more interested in just using it as breathwork practice for singing. And a lot of postures, like I've been combining some vocal warm-ups with sun salutations even.
Oh, cool.
Just, you know, standing ones, not going into plank and all that. But yeah, so warming up the voice, going up and down your range, using your arms, and you're adding the physicality to everything. So that's cool. Been fun. Yeah. And kind of combining, I've been working a lot with tarot cards in the last few years. So I pull cards at the beginning of lessons too, just to give a theme, like an arc or a theme, or it's kind of fun. Like regardless if what anyone thinks about the cards, it offers a different perspective, and it's, you know, so I kind of I can set a tone that way and say, oh, like what's going on in this area of your life? Maybe we can work through that with the voice and working through this song. And, you know, it comes together in a way that feels really natural. So that's been so really cool. Exciting.
So do people come to your studio?
Yes. So that's what shifted with Corona, is that I've had to do it over Zoom instead, which I don't love. But I've been wanting to kind of experiment with that because I'd like to be able to provide this service nationally, internationally, you know, not have it just be limited to my small town area that I'm living in. So it's been good to practice and see what that's like. I found that warming up the voice is very hard over Zoom because it really only lets one person at a time make sound, which is great for speaking.
To change that if you want.
Oh, yes.
Somebody showed me that because I was teaching a yoga class to Russians of all things. And
wow.
Yeah. And it's so he the guy showed me how to do it. It has to do with your sound settings, and it's better. Like you can,
okay.
It doesn't cut the other person off.
Okay. I'll try that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can also look it up. Like there's instructions and stuff, but yeah.
Okay.
It's not ideal for like, singing together.
Right. Well, I'll check into that. My temporary solution was to make warm-up videos that people could do at home, like before the session.
Mm-hmm.
So they can do a warm-up video, and there's cons to that also because it's not in real time. I can't correct or say anything, but it's kind of a start at least, just to get them.
Yeah, that's also something you can post on YouTube as like a promo for your services.
Yeah.
Something small. Cool.
Yeah, there's some options. Yeah, so there's been adjustments, but I can see how they fit into my long-term goals anyways, ways that I wanted to adjust anyway. So that was positive, at least. Yeah, there's a lot of
cool. I didn't realize that you were doing, and what a cool like integrative voice lesson sort of thing to include movement and all this stuff. That sounds really fun.
It's really fun. Yeah, I love it. And I only have one student who's a little more just a traditional lesson. She's going into musical theater. She's in high school, and I don't really do the other elements with her. I just kind of keep it focused because she has a specific goal. So we'll just work on that. But most of my students are in their 50s and 60s, kind of retired, and I've always wished I sang, or this was something I was always scared to do. And they're not necessarily on the path that they're trying to go on tour or perform all the time. So it's more of a healing and expressive thing. So that's the perfect demographic to practice that with.
Yeah. I actually had a couple of people ask me if I did something like that. Yeah. And which I don't really, but it sounded interesting to me. Like that's what they were interested in, because they asked me if I did voice lessons, and I was like, well, and then I explained, I guess I would do like sounding stuff. They're like, oh, well, I'd be interested in doing that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's really, that just sounds like so much fun. I'm so excited for you.
Thank you.
So you're taking obviously a break from touring.
Yes.
Do you feel like in the future, when all portals are open, you will like kind of combine these two things, and you'll do some live and some, or do you think
I'm not sure how to combine it. Even right now, I'm working on a new redesign of my website. And right now I have like two options of directions to go. It's like a welcome page. And then it's, so the studio is called Inner Space Creative Studio. So you can go to Inner Space, or you can go to live music. So I have them separate, but I haven't made this website live yet because I'm still figuring out how to integrate the two. Like they're both me, but they're very different aspects of me and different offerings. So, that's like the final puzzle piece, is how to combine them, or if to combine them, or if I keep these as separate businesses and different identities in a way, or different presentations, not identities, but different presentation. So that's kind of the final piece that I'm hoping to work out very soon. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No, I was just thinking like, will you be doing live on the weekends and like this sort of stuff
yeah. During the week. Yes, exactly. Okay. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, I it's funny. I don't think I would have that mental sort of gymnastics going on. I think I would I have, it's like on my website, there's a little work with me tab, and somebody clicks on it and they see like, you can I've been teaching harmonium lessons.
Oh, great.
People really, have asked me about that, but yeah, but you also have sort of like a whole studio. So yeah, I've been going through something like that with my name change, like.
Okay. How to transition and blend it together, and it's possible, but it's definitely a transition in figuring out how to display that publicly so that people don't get confused or they understand what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or that like you just feel like it's the right way to do it. You know, like it feels I don't know, like feels right to, you know, to you. Cause So is there anything else that's going on in your life that's new?
Well,
everything really is going to be new to someone listening.
Everything's
you've never
new.
been on a podcast before.
Right. Yeah, that's true. Well, one thing I was thinking would be fun to like chat about today is I know that you've been posting and sharing a lot of things on manifestation, right? And that's been something I'm really excited about because actually, so you shared something in 2012. I don't know what it was. I don't know if you shared it with me privately. I can't remember. It was like some kind of like a ritual assessment in 2012 of of visioning your future from a specific date in 2012. And
I don't remember this at all. This is interesting.
But I still have the paper. It was just like a writing exercise and just kind of getting clear in your brain about what you're wanting, you know? And I still have the papers. And so that's 8 years ago. And I'm just like laughing about it because so all these things that I wrote 8 years ago are manifesting now. And in the process of, and I think in the next couple years, they'll be pretty solid. So that's an entire decade. And I feel so much like what is new for me is that I've, in the last couple years, completely shifted my brain to just surrendering, I guess, in general. And after like going against the current and working so hard and trying to make things happen, especially with my career and comparing myself to other people, like they got it and I couldn't figure out how, like, I guess I think of it as kind of like yang energy, just like fiery, like trying to make it happen. Nothing's working, this kind of a thing. The second, like my brain shifted to not giving up, but just like, it's going to be the timeline that it is. I'm not in control of the timeline. Suddenly everything's just like falling into place. And I thought that would be something that would be cool to talk with you about, because I know that's something that you're excited about right now, I guess, or, you know?
Yeah. I mean, so what I find really interesting is that, let me clear my throat. So I don't do the visioning so much anymore. I place my emphasis on presenting as little resistance to each moment as possible. So if I find myself like in resistance to a moment, then I'm asking myself, okay, what's my limiting belief here? How do I prove that wrong to myself? Because I know any sort of limitation that I impose on myself is me, you know, it's not inherent in the situation. So I kind of work through that. And then what I found is that, a lot of the things that I thought I wanted come into my life. But what's happened more is that things that I couldn't have imagined.
Yes.
Come into my life. So like, I think that for me has been like, an aha moment, you know, of going like, I really can't imagine what is going to come because I'm where I am and not where I'm going right now. Yeah. And what can be is so much greater than what I could imagine, you know?
Yes. I used to do the exercise of saying, you know, this or something better, like leaving it open or something that I'm not even aware of. So interesting. So my fiance, Brian, is just one of those people, just innately, it's like a joke. Like if he couldn't pay his rent, he would just walk down the street and there'd be $100 bill. Like that actually happened. Like that kind of thing. He's just like in that flow all the time. And so recently his cousin was asking him like, why does life easy for you? And it's not easy for him, but like he was saying, I don't know, he just like approaches things a little different. Like with his goals, he like puts like the seed of the idea out there, but he doesn't have that urgency or pressure to make it happen. It's just like, there's that seed. And then he's just aware, like when the door is open or an opportunity comes, he goes, oh yeah, I planted a seed like that. I'm going to say yes to this, or, you know, and it's really, there's just no urgency or no trying to make something happen. So it's like the exact opposite energy of how I was for a lot of time of trying to make things happen. It's just allowing, knowing that like it's probably going to look way different than what you thought, you know. But just like putting the little ideas out and then not being attached to them. Yeah.
Well, and it's interesting that you said people think that his life is easy.
Right.
It doesn't feel necessarily easy to him. I mean, that's something I've realized too, is in kind of following spiritual teachers for a while, or like following some spiritual path. For me, the end goal was like, oh, at some point everything's going to just feel like, and I'm going to
effortless
clouds. Yeah. I mean, even the effortlessness, like it does feel better for sure. But even that, like, you know, that non-efforting, I mean, there's always going to be doubt. There's always going to be, you know, fear in the things that we do. So, you know, the goal isn't to not feel, like not to have negative emotions, but like to, you know, to have an outlet. I mean, like what you're doing with your vocal clients, like to have an outlet for those emotions, to, you know, understand what they're telling you, to realize you're not doing it wrong if you're, you know, experiencing your humanness.
Right. And like embracing that as part of your experience. Like, you know, those emotions are your allies if you want to work with them, like you're saying. And listen to them and tend to them a little bit. So that's been a huge shift. And I remember, so you're a little involved in this, I guess, too. So a couple years ago, I can't remember if it was 2017 or 2018, but I went back to Boston I just wanted to like be by myself for a little bit and figure out like what wasn't working, you know? Because I was really going against the current for a long time, and that created anxiety and depression and all sorts of things, because, you know, things weren't working out and I was not responding favorably to it. And so I went back there and I was just totally fine. I just had an air mattress and I had a cardboard box for a table, and I was just going to be there for like 5 months.
When you say there, like your apartment that you had,
right?
Or
which now it doesn't no longer exist. But I was like saying goodbye to like that chapter of my life from when I went to school in Boston, and so I went back there, and your mom was so generous. She gave me all this furniture, and I had nothing, and I was okay with that. But like this magic gift of like, suddenly I had a bed and a desk. It's like, oh, this is great. Major game changer. But when I was there, it could sound intense or depressing. And it's probably what a lot of people have gone through with COVID even, but I like intentionally just wanted to be alone and shut off and like face a bunch of dark stuff, you know? And for me, I just kind of like to like dive in and address things. So that's what I did. That's also when I got really into tarot cards. I was practicing them a lot when I was just by myself there. And I thought when I was there, I was going to go out and interact and go to museums and do all this stuff. But I found I just stayed in my little cocoon. And it was like, I was really going through this transformative process of like caterpillar to butterfly situation. You know, I was just like in my cocoon, I cut myself off basically from the world. And it was kind of dark and heavy, but it was really important because in that, I realized that the direction I was fighting for and this like goal and dream of like being a jazz singer, and I need to live in New York, and there's a certain vision. I want to have like artist friends and this certain like life, you know, and that's what I was fighting really hard for, that the doors have not been open for me for. And I just had this like shift through the cards, they helped me like be aware of like the shift that didn't actually fit who I was. And that was like massive for me. This thing I've been worked so hard for, you know, like got a college degree in this to be jazz singer, like all these things I've been working so hard, making lots of sacrifices, living places I didn't really wasn't comfortable in, and making a lot of choices and that were not very supportive of me. And I thought, it's okay, it's worth it. I'm working towards my goal. It's worth suffering. It's worth not being happy and not enjoying my life because I'm working towards this goal. And I just had this realization that like, when I like closed my eyes and thought about like how I wanted to feel in my life, there was like, I just got this vision of like warmth and color and this really grounded sensation and this whole like sensation that was so opposite of what I was trying to go for. Like the world and the life I was going for kind of had this coldness to it of, you know, like I thought I'd have to be in a city. I thought I had to be, especially New York. It's exhausting, you know, like going to gigs, setting up your PA, you know, I thought of, you know, doing that on the subway. And like, that was my whole thing. And being disconnected from family and land, earth. And I was just so set that that's what I needed. And then when I realized like, oh no, like my body wants a yard. My body really wants like to have a garden with some healthy food in it maybe. And like some comforts and some stability and some groundedness. And that's a completely different vision than what I've been fighting for. And anyway, when I made that shift, then over a couple years, but the initial like intentions that I put out there started to kind of fall into place. And I think because my whole system could relax, you know, it's like now I live in a supportive environment at the moment that isn't draining me. It's actually like can give me some energy. So I have energy to work on things, which I didn't have that before. And like all these things, it's like, it's I wasn't in alignment with my own vision. And I didn't realize that. That's huge. And I think also, I was just thinking about this earlier before we talked, so I have it like all in my brain right now. But I think also, what also wasn't in alignment with my vision was the motivation behind it, the motivating factors, like the fire behind it was a little more, you know, I should have a career, a little like should in there, a little shame. I'm supposed to be successful. I'm supposed to have a life that looks this way. You know, I went to school for this, so I'm supposed to have this path. And none of those are positive thoughts. That's like any should or shame or supposed to, like that kind of stuff is so negative. So how could it support your vision if you're just like, your motivation in itself is kind of negative?
Well, so and it sounds like also kind of the double-edged sword of going to such an amazing, I mean, you went to Berkeley in Boston, like that's an amazing, that has so many talented people in one space. And, you know, so you're going to learn a ton, you're going to have, you know, interactions with people who are talented and whatever, but also you're going to end up comparing yourself. And how what the evolution of their quote unquote success is, or what, you know, what they're doing. I mean, I only imagine. I wanted to just place in because I did not know that you were going through that at the time. And I remember you texted me and were like, you know, there was some stuff of mine in the furniture that my mom sent you. In the midst of all this shadow work, you found it necessary to send me a box of my writing or something.
Like childhood things.
So that's, I mean, it was really sweet to me at the time, but knowing what you were going through, that's really touching. Thank you.
Oh yeah, of course. It was cute to see it. The little drawers had your little things in it still. Yeah, it was really cute. So that's been just huge for me. And I think there's just such a lesson in, I think we all compare to some extent because we all have egos, and just like learning, taking the time to really feel into like, who are you actually? Does that vision that you're comparing to actually match your essence of who you are? You know? And I think most of the time, maybe all the time, it won't. Otherwise you would have that life and be doing that thing. So like, you know, like I think really taking the time to check into what you actually want to feel, and not even like the things you acquire, like the specifics, but just like, how do I want to feel? What matches that? Because it's probably not the thing that someone else has, because that they probably want to feel a different thing. They might have a different situation going on. So yeah, so that's been cool, because now I'm opening this studio, which is, I really want to connect one-on-one with people. That matters most to me. I love performing, but the part I love about performing is kind of like creating an energetic space for people to feel warm, and that those feelings I wanted to feel, like cozy and safe and warm and connected. I hope people feel that when they're at my performances. And then I like to create that feeling for people one-on-one. And I'm excited that now that I've let go of the idea that my career and purpose had to look a certain way, that I'm finally like, oh no, this is the way for me. And it's not looking like other people's. And that's totally great.
Yeah. Because are you Nicole Stromsoe or Nikki Stromsoe?
My friends call me Nikki, but professionally I say Nicole. I don't know why. It doesn't matter. Yeah.
Well, there's never been another you. And so, of course, it's funny. I mean, it does take a while to figure that out, but like, you think that would be more impressed upon us, I guess.
Right. Or maybe it is mentally, but then to feel it is a different level. Just like sometimes you might be in a tricky situation and you understand it consciously, but your feelings still are upset about it or whatever, you know, it's just, it's a different thing. But I find it even with all my voice students, like a lot of people, singing is very vulnerable, as you know. And so a lot of people have a lot of make apologies for like, oh, sorry, I didn't warm up good enough today, or, oh, this just isn't right. Or, you know, I could see people getting a little stressed thinking they're supposed to sound a certain way or supposed to be a certain way. And I'm grateful for going through that shift so that I can really support them and say, no, you're totally fine. This is how you sound right now. There's no problem with that. Like, we'll work on making it more comfortable and more fun and more freeing, but I don't want to focus on trying to make them sound like anything. Just get it comfortable and open, and so you're enjoying yourself. And then the byproduct of that automatically is that it's going to sound good. You know?
I'd actually never considered that singing was vulnerable.
Really?
But I think like I am so, I wouldn't say comfortable, because it's never comfortable to be vulnerable, but like used to or conditioned to just being that way all the time. I mean, it's a rough way to live life, but yeah, I mean, just, and then the idea that in singing, you are expressing, which you said, these are like little aha things that are going on in my head right now, that, I mean, I'm almost going like, well, doesn't everybody live their life that way? But I guess not. No.
So many people are closed off that way, or they might really, feel things, but not have the courage to say them. Like even just in speaking, not singing, like there's a lot of, unfortunately, especially women. So I really love working with teenage girls is my favorite, because I really want to inspire them to just go for it. Be yourself, have a funny sounding voice if you or whatever, it's like, it doesn't matter. There's nothing worth judging yourself about or conforming to. But yeah, for a lot of people, it's really scary to sing. Yeah. And do you know what someone told me recently? I met this woman, she's a fashion designer, and she said something that I really loved, and I think it might resonate with you. Someone else that was there was saying, it's funny that I have this, big, powerful voice when I'm singing, because my personality's kind of shy and quiet, not shy, but like, you know, not my personality that I present myself to people is not the same as my singing voice. And so this woman had a great observation. She said, people who are expressing loudly and like take up all the energy in the room and those kind of people, her thought was that they might not have that much pent up inside that they need to express through song. You know what I mean? Or through whatever, because they are constantly sharing it. Whereas she was thinking people that are a little more introverted or introspective and they have all this stuff built up inside to share, so that by the time they do, it has all this emotion behind it and power, because they haven't been sharing it all day. They've kept keeping it in themselves all day. Those are not her exact words. She was much more eloquent about it, but
no, that makes sense.
But when she said that, I thought like, oh, that's a really interesting perspective. I never thought about that. How there's some people that they're not the personality type to be sharing and expressing all the time, so that when they do, it has all this emotional buildup to it.
Yeah. That's interesting, because I've noticed a switch within myself where it is a lot easier for me now to express, especially without a ton of emotion behind it. So it's not like I'm expressing like through trying to provoke somebody or to, you know, like to try and get them riled up with me, sort of thing. I think that comes with just getting older and like being able to look at yourself a little bit more. And I have definitely a ways to go with that. But yeah, I mean, I used to be very quiet, and I wouldn't say quiet. I was never a quiet person, but maybe wouldn't easily share about something personal with myself. Whereas I would write a song about it and I'd feel totally comfortable singing it in front of a crowd, you know?
Right.
That's really interesting. One of the things that I find really cool about your voice is that, which is sort of related to what you just said, is that it sounds so different to me from what I would imagine your voice would sound like. Do you get that a lot?
I get that feedback a lot. Yes.
Yeah. It's like, it's so like, I don't know. And it's not like impossible. Like when you sing, it makes sense. You know, It's not like, how could that come out? But it just wouldn't have been what I would have, you know, what I would have imagined. When you say I'm a singer. Yeah.
Yeah. I do hear that. Yeah. But so it's interesting to have that woman's perspective on like, oh, maybe that has a piece, maybe what she had to offer has like a piece of truth to it.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Yeah, because I, like you, I guess shy isn't I really don't like when people say shy, but I think I'm cautious, maybe. I'm careful, especially socially. I'm just kind of like careful about what I'm interjecting or not wanting to take attention away from other people, or I don't know. I'm just kind of careful in that way, I guess, overly. Yeah, maybe there is something where it's like, okay, this is my opportunity. Gonna let it all out. This is who I am. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
That's something I'll keep an eye on throughout life and see if it shifts and adjusts over time. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I feel like, you could be that way in everything you do, because you are able to be that way when you sing, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I could just own it and be that.
Yeah.
It would be such a shift from my current personality.
Yeah.
But maybe that's a goal to work towards. See if I can get comfortable in all my life to be that way. We'll see.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, you go.
Oh, I was going to ask you, do you like it when you say you're a singer and they're like, oh yeah, sing something?
Hate it.
Me too.
Hate it. Yeah. It's like on the spot.
Yeah.
Sing anything like,
I'm a carpenter. Build something.
Right. Yeah. Show me your skills. Yeah. No, it's not into that. Yeah, it's funny. And the things, I don't know, do you get funny feedback when you're performing? Like, do people come up and just say like, I don't know. I get people saying the funniest things or strangest things, I guess.
What would be strange?
I mean, there's a whole spectrum. Sometimes they're specific to me, and sometimes, like one time this woman came up to me. This was not specific to me, but I thought this was so strange. She came up to me and she goes, you know, my granddaughter likes music. And I was like, cool. But I was thinking like, doesn't everyone like music? And she's like, it was like this really rare thing. She wasn't saying her granddaughter played music or like wants to learn to sing, or it was just that she likes it. I thought that was so interesting. Like, do you not like music? You don't like music? Yeah, I thought that was interesting. And people just come up and make funny requests, or in times that are totally inappropriate, like this is not a request time, you know, like an actual concert or something. It's like, what? No. And a lot of people love, I don't know if you have this, a lot of people like to tell me who they think my voice sounds like.
Yes, I do get that. Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
Do you get the same people over and over, the same comparisons, or do they change with different people's perspectives? Yeah.
Always. How about you?
Who are your comparisons?
Natalie Merchant.
Ooh.
Like if somebody's going to tell me I sound like somebody, that's who it's going to be.
Nice.
I think that's the only consistent one.
Okay.
How about you?
My most consistent one is Amy Winehouse. And I don't really think my voice sounds like her, but I think the styles of music.
Like Natalie Merchant.
Yeah. At least that's a good comparison. I mean, I like Natalie Merchant's voice.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's more that the style I'm singing, I am not always singing jazz songs, but I have like a jazz tonality to my voice, I guess, when I'm singing sometimes. And maybe the only other artist they've heard that has that is Amy Winehouse, even though she's not singing jazz, but she kind of has a quality to her voice that sounds jazzy, whatever that means. Yeah. So I think it's like, oh, I've heard something that kind of is like this before. Yeah. Therefore, yeah.
I think people find the need to kind of contextualize what they're experiencing.
Yeah.
Maybe validate it to themselves, or I don't know.
And it might be their way of saying, I like how you sound.
Yeah, could be.
Or something, but instead it says you sound like so-and-so.
I've been told to go on American Idol a few times, which was really funny.
Yeah. Me too. And I've had, so I live exactly between LA and San Francisco, right in the middle. And it's a small area, but there's a lot of tourists that come through, and there's tons of performing opportunities because there's so many wineries and hotels and events and weddings, and you know, you could perform a lot here for sure. But I've had people come up to me and say like, why aren't you in LA? Why are you here? That's happened a few times. Like, I don't really know what would be different if I were in LA, except I'd be performing less, to be honest.
Right. And you'd be like, you'd have to get people to pay, like to buy tickets.
Right. The pay to play thing. It is a hard city to be a musician in.
No, but you've just described a perfect space for you to thrive in. Like that.
Right.
What a great like, yeah, there's so many opportunities. You're like the perfect genre for it.
It matches. And I mean, that's part of that shift I had to make in my head, was thinking, you know, being in this area wasn't good enough because it's not a city, you know, it's not the cool place or whatever. And just, exactly like you're saying, when I made that awareness, like, oh, this actually supports me and I fit here.
Not only
why am I fighting this?
Yeah, but like now, I mean, it hardly matters where you are.
No, yeah.
Music travels, you know.
You tour, there's internet, it doesn't matter at all. Yeah. How are you liking the music scene in Seattle? What's that like?
I don't know.
Who knows?
I don't know. I mean, I moved here in December.
Okay.
My main concern was like getting my kids adjusted and stuff. So I've really just brought my recording studio to another location. Again, it doesn't matter where it is. So I don't have a band here yet or anything like that.
Right.
Yeah. But I know that there are a lot of talented.
They exist. The musicians exist there. Yeah.
So I'll meet up with them when we're all, when it's all the right time.
Yeah. Yeah. How has COVID affected you?
Well, it was funny because, so I put my kids in school the second week of February for the first time ever. They'd been homeschooled forever. And then they were in for 6 weeks and they were out. So for me, it was weird. It was like, wait, I just made a huge choice to put them in school for the first time.
Right.
And then they were sent back to me. And so now I'm back at square one. So, so I was a little peeved at that for a little while, not because I don't like being around my kids, but just because I felt like I got a schedule and I was able to go to yoga classes and make sure that I got my recording time in and, all these things. And I do all this coaching. So that was a lot easier when they were away. Because now when I coach, it's sort of like, so, my kids may interrupt us. We'll make up the time if we need, but it's all very, people are very understanding, but yeah, so it hasn't changed my life too much since most of what I was doing was online anyway.
Right.
But moving did change it because I was doing more live stuff in Phoenix.
Yeah. And that's a huge move.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I love it here. It's so gorgeous.
Oh, good. Good.
Yeah. I like where you are too. So pretty.
So pretty. Yeah. I'm very, very fortunate. And specifically where I'm living at the moment, it's on some acreage and I can be outside. So I didn't really feel trapped. Like I'm very lucky for this shelter in place. I keep just calling it COVID, but I assume you know what I mean.
Right.
This whole shelter in place thing. I got to still go outside and walk out my door, and we've had a few friends that live in the city come up and stay with us that don't even have like a porch or a balcony or anything off their apartment. So they just wanted to be outside and not be around people. And so it's been really cool that we've been able to provide a getaway space for friends who are in that position that they feel trapped. I've been pretty fortunate that I have some beautiful things to look out the window at,
Yeah. And
not a cement wall.
Imagine if you were the singer in New York right now.
Oh. That's true. Yeah. Oh, I don't think I can handle that, especially in the cold weather when it first started. And I would just imagine being inside and having it gray outside and feeling stuck. And definitely feel for people in that position.
Yeah. And I was supposed to be RVing around the country.
Really?
I was going to do if I hadn't gotten divorced. Yeah. So both me and my ex-husband were like, God, thank God we didn't do that. Like we were going to sell our house and buy an RV.
Wow.
And we would, we'd have such limited places that we could go to right now.
Yeah. I think, right now some things have opened back up, but I did a couple, I drove with my brother to pick up a friend in Oakland area to bring that friend back down here so that they could shelter in place here for a month. But on the drive up, there was nowhere to use a bathroom. Like every gas station was caution taped around the bathrooms. Fast food place at just like the moment we went was when things got really serious in California, and fast food places, you couldn't go in, you could only do drive-through. And I even tried to get creative and go like Home Depot or go like, there has to be somewhere, but nowhere. So I was just thinking if you're on a long road trip or something, you don't have to have a bathroom, but it really would be very limited with any options. Yeah.
My sister-in-law, like Pat, I call her my sister now because she's not in-law anymore. But she drives for like Uber Eats or whatever, those like food delivery things. And that was one of the complaints that they were having was like, there's nowhere to use a bathroom, So the restaurants actually started opening up their bathrooms for just the drivers, which, it's cool. There's nice. A lot of things you just don't think about when you're not.
Yeah. And like, it's such a weird, intense time right now with so many things, but like our country's so divided intensely right now. But I also got, in the beginning of COVID, or shelter in place, I got glimpses of people like really working together and, you know, to understanding like no one's enjoying this necessarily. And, right. And it was really interesting sharing something internationally, like knowing, you know, you're going through something, the same fears and concerns as someone across the world. I thought that there was like a unifying element of that I found really interesting.
Yeah.
Amidst all the opposing forces right now.
Yeah.
You know? So yeah, for a moment there was like this glimpse I had of like, oh, cool. Everyone's kind of like working together for the most part, trying, not everyone, but a lot of people are coming together who might not have been.
Yeah.
Or working together to create solutions like the bathroom thing for Uber drivers, or, you know, just like little things of like, okay, like I can understand that situation's not cool. Let's see how we can work on that.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I got more glimpses of that because I'm in a small community, a small town area. But it was interesting, like local businesses seemed pretty supported during that time. And, you know, people were extra trying to buy from them and not online on Amazon or something. And yeah.
Yeah, the restaurants here doesn't seem like they're hurting, like where we are. I mean, like we've tried to order takeout a couple of times from restaurants. And I don't know if that's just because they're understaffed too, but it seems like they're getting a lot of orders because we've tried and they've been like, sorry, you know, you had to call in earlier because we're swamped. You know, we can't make any more food.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, that's great. Yeah.
That's pretty cool. I don't know if it's been that good here since it's a smaller area, so less demand, but
it's
maybe in cities.
It's an interesting dynamic here because so many of the people where I am work for the large tech companies.
Right.
And so they're definitely still, a lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them are still employed and have pretty secure jobs.
Because people could work from home. Yeah.
And they're stuck at home, so they're probably going to be ordering out more.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, maybe a good time to be a restaurant owner in Seattle.
Yeah.
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 That's so cool. I haven't been to Seattle yet. I really would like to come check it out.
It's such a cute little polished city. I don't live in Seattle. I live kind of outside of Seattle, but it's a very forested suburb. Like it feels
nice,
almost country-ish.
Yeah.
More populated. Yeah.
Really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So last year I did a tour just with my guitarist to make it so that we actually had some profit at the end of it.
Yeah.
Barely, but otherwise we wouldn't have at all if we had to worry about like multiple people's gas money and all that, you know.
Yeah.
Anyway. So we did a 3-week tour and we went up to Spokane and I had a few performances in Spokane. So we stopped in Spokane before going into Montana area. And then we stopped in Spokane on the way back too. And Spokane is pretty cool.
It is. Yeah.
I liked it. We were in, I think it was like the East. I forget the neighborhood we were in. I forget now, but it was, it almost had like an old San Francisco vibe to it. This particular neighborhood we were in different colored houses and little community coffee shops. And,
Yeah, it was cute. I was for those of you that missed our text. Before the podcast, we were talking about how I went to Spokane, last week. Yeah, down memory lane with my uncle and saw like my great grandmother's house. And
wow.
Yeah, it was really cool.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I did. So also for those of you who don't know, Porter and I are related.
Right. I'll probably talk about
say something in the beginning.
Intro. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was interesting for me going up there just to kind of visualize. I was just imagining like my great grandparents who both were raised up there on neighboring farms. So the Dewey side that's related to you, and then the Larson side not related to you.
Oh, okay. And I didn't realize both of your. Oh, wow.
Yeah, and they're like neighbors, I guess, but on big acreage. I don't know how. I think it was still a long distance between the two neighbors. Yeah. So I was just kind of just imagining them as kids running through around Flathead Lake. There's in Coeur d'Alene, there's all, at least the time I was there, had all these wildflowers and kind of like fields. I don't know.
But there were like huge expanses of yellow flowers. Like
yes, the yellow flowers.
Entire mountain. Yeah. Yeah. My uncle said he thought that was canola. But
really?
Gorgeous. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So beautiful. And so we were on a mission on the tour, so we didn't really stop and check things out.
Canola.
Right. Smell the canola. But yeah, I was just picturing, just from stories I've heard, just picturing kids running through the fields by the lake. And so my side of the family had a house near Flathead Lake in Montana. And but that was my great grandparents, but my grandma would go up there in the summers every summer and stay with her grandparents, you know, and I was picturing her out there, and I was just wondering, like, I wonder if they were here. I wonder if they went down this road. I wonder, you know.
That's so cool.
I don't know if that's similar to what you were feeling.
Do you remember how we're related?
Yes, but okay, so is your grandpa or grandma Dewey?
Grandpa.
Okay, so your grandpa and my great grandpa.
No. My grandpa, Don. Yeah, Dewey. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So your grandpa is the brother of my great grandpa. So even though you and I are the same age, we're like, in the family tree wise, we're like a generation off.
Because my parents had kids pretty old. Maybe.
I think and I think my great grandpa was like the oldest of the brothers, and maybe your grandpa was one of the youngest. And then
because he was the middle one.
Okay. Because my grandma, who was your cousins with your mom, so my grandma and your mom are cousins.
Okay.
But my grandma was like way older than your mom, obviously. Okay. So it's that age gap somehow.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah. So somehow it is that you and I are the same age, but a generation apart.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm slightly older, but yeah.
Yeah.
But not a whole generation.
No.
Yeah. You wouldn't think I was a whole generation, but I am.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh.
So that's how we're related. So yeah, that Dewey side was both up in the Montana, Idaho, Washington area.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it became, I mean, I know I've heard that before, but it was harder for me to conceptualize because I felt so removed from that. Like, I've heard stories of Lake Coeur d'Alene, but I never knew what it really looked like.
Yeah.
You know, and my mom had talked about Spokane, but like I couldn't really picture it because I'd never been there. Now it seems a lot more real. Yeah.
Yeah. It helps to have a visual.
Yeah. So did you grow up going back there? Like, was that the first time or?
No, neither. I went back when I was like 3. I have some memories of hanging out at Flathead Lake when I was little, 3 or 4. Oops. Hang on. Okay, I unplugged my microphone on accident. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm still here. Oh, wait, now. Oh, there you are.
Buffalo and it's being on the lake. It's just gorgeous with all the trees surrounding it. And I always had kind of a connection. I did like school reports on my great grandparents. I interviewed my great grandpa Dewey, so the one we're related to. I have like they don't exist anymore, but there are these little like handheld recorders with like these mini cassette tapes in them.
Yeah.
I have a couple cassette tapes I did for a school project where I interviewed him all about his childhood. And I need to convert those digitally somehow. You might be interested because he probably talks about your grandpa and him, I would imagine.
Oh, wow.
I don't really remember now. Yeah. So.
Yeah, it was so crazy hearing about how like, so where we were, I mean.
Now I can't hear you. Sorry.
Oh,
let me see what's going on.
I'm not muted. La, 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 la. La, 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 la. Can you hear me? No.
Hello?
Can you hear me?
What happened?
I don't know. Are your headphones plugged in? Can you hear me? No. My mouth is moving, but no sound is coming out.
Okay, now let's try.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know why that happened, but now I hear you.
What was I going to say? Oh yeah. So my uncle has this really beautiful house now that he's built on the lake. He and his wife built, I guess. But when they would go, it was like free land and camping, I guess.
Oh.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So they had like a little, like covering that they had built, and then they would just sort of sleep under the stars, I guess.
Nice.
Yeah.
Huh.
So it's evolved a little bit. I mean, now it's very nice to be at his house, and yeah, in the boats and stuff.
Really cool.
Cool. Well,
yes.
Thank you, Nicole, for coming on my podcast.
Yes, I love that you have a podcast. It's fantastic. Yeah.
Tell everyone how they can find you, and if they want to work with you, how would they reach you?
Okay, so NicoleStromsoe.com, NicoleStromsoe. Right now I haven't switched my new website over, but right now you can still fill out the contact form. Mm-hmm. It's more just performance based at the moment, but very soon it will also be lesson based on my website. So I'll have different options. So if you go to the Inner Space Creative Studio, part of the website, you can work one-on-one with me over Zoom. And I've finally figured out how to make Zoom better for me. And so I can do one service as intuitive like guidance or like kind of coaching with that. Or they can be lessons that also have that element, voice lessons. They can be just traditional voice lessons with none of that, if that's more your preference. Kind of just create sessions based off of who someone is and what they are receptive to.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, have a great day.
Thank you. You too. It was very nice talking to you and seeing you.
You too.
Bye. Yeah. Bye.